everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I make this very simple but decorative chain mask holder. Now some of you may be very much like me, or maybe you're used to having to wear masks every day. But if you're like me, you're not used to wearing them every day, and the rare occasion that you do go out and the place you go into requires you to wear one. Sometimes I forget it in my car, or I leave it in my purse and it's all crumpled up. So I decided that I needed something to hold it so that I could just slip it off my face and then slip it back on as I needed. And this little chain holder works really well for that. Of course, you don't have to be like me, as I said, but it's nice not to have to stuff it into something else and have it nice looking. Now, having said that, I'm waiting for the day where we don't have to wear masks anymore. But in the meantime, while we still do, these little chain holders, or these little mask holders, are a good idea. So if you like this, keep on watching. I'm going to show you what these supplies are going to be, and then we'll get to crafting. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is some chain, and this is just some typical necklace type chains. The size is pretty much going to depend on what you like, your preference. You want to choose about 24 to 26 inches in length. Maybe you already have a chain at home that you can recycle, something that you no longer wear or you find attractive. But the chain is good, so we can reuse that. We're also going to need these badge holder type metal clips, or perhaps you find them in plastic. These are 1 inch in size. I would have preferred maybe a 1.5 inch, something a little smaller, but this is what I found. I actually ordered these from Amazon. I got a big box of them, and the chain I got it from Hobby Lobby, just in case you're curious about that. We're also going to be using some eye pins. I'm using at least 2-inch long eye pins. As you can see right here, it has an eye on one end, and on the other one it doesn't. Now, you could use just a straight up, like a straight pin, but you want to make sure it's long enough where you can create these little loops on the end, so these little eyes on the end. So just make sure you pick that. Now, these I found them at Hobby Lobby. We're going to be using these open jump rings. That means they only circle around once. You'll find some jump rings, they circle around a couple of times, but these are just once, and they do have a little area where they do pop open. And these are 6mm open jump rings. You can go a little bit smaller. It all depends on the size of your chain links. So you want to make sure that the little metal on these rings will go through the little links. We're going to be needing some beads, and here I have an assortment of beads. It doesn't really matter what color or even really the size. You do want some small ones. You don't want them to be too big, but you also want to make sure that your pin does go through the hole on your little beads. So just make sure that they fit, and then you can use them for your little holder. Again, the size doesn't matter. I do have a ruler right here, so you can kind of get an idea of the size that I'm using. Alright, so let's talk about the tools. This is going to be very important that you do have some tools that are very similar to what I'm using. Maybe you want to go ahead and invest. If you're a jewelry maker, then you probably already have these. So these are some little pliers, and these have a flat part to them, as you can see right there. These are really great for grabbing little beads and things like that, and to handling the jump rings while you're opening them and closing them. Now, these do have a wire cutter on them, but the wire cutter is way down in there. So I'll show you what kind of wire cutters I'll be using instead. Okay, so as far as pliers are concerned, I'm also going to be using these. These have a little bit of a cone shape to them. They're like basically a needle nose plier, as you can see right here. And you can see that it has a very thin edge, and it kind of widens up as we go along. We're going to need these so that we can create a loop on our pins, and this will help us decide what size. So these are important, so you're going to need these tools. And then I'm going to be using these wire cutters instead of the ones that are on this plier over here, because they're small, and I can use the very tips of them to cut very delicate things, little bits of chain and such, and I can get my little chain in there and I can see what I'm doing. So you're going to need something like that. That's really important. And of course you're going to need something to measure with. So I've got my little ruler right here, as you've been seeing, and I've had it out all this time so that you can kind of compare the items that I put next to it, the sizes. So I think this is it, everyone. So let's get to crafting. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to cut 18 inches of chain first. So here I've got it. My ruler happens to be 18 inches, so that's the size that I'm going to start off with. I want this to go around the back of my neck. So basically this here, this goes around the back of my neck, and then this little part kind of goes up and reaches up my jawline, okay? But I want this extra bit because, like I said, I do not want this to be around my neck and then up into my cheek tight. I want it to dangle off a little bit so that it is comfortable to wear. Okay, so we're going to start off with 18 inches, just like I did with this one. And here I'm going to use my little pliers just to cut off right at the 18 inches. Now when I cut it a link over because that little link that I cut into is no longer going to be usable. So we're going to just let that come off, and this chain is what we're going to start off with first. All right, so on my other chain that I made, I have smaller pieces of chain right here. I have a 1 inch here and I have a 2 inch here. I'm not going to cut those yet until I've built my little bead sections that are going to go on the two ends of this other chain, just like I have this one here, and it's got on both sides the same little bead sections. So I want to create that first before I cut off the little chains that go between them, and then over here going up to my clip. So let's get together to putting together these little bits. All right, so for the beaded parts, I'm going to be needing the pins and my assorted beads. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull one out and then start grabbing my beads and then kind of making a pattern and deciding what do I like. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to create a little pattern of beads. Push this out of the way. Okay, this pattern that I put together is too long for my pin here. So I'm going to remove some. I think I'm going to remove this one and then just put this one back in here on the bottom. And then just take off this extra blue one. And I think that should be good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and test this by putting it onto my pin. So I'm just going to grab my pin and then just slide it into the little holes and just feed it onto there like that. And go on with the next one. Now this could be trial and error. You might be doing several patterns before you decide, okay, which one do you really like? Which one will fit the pin perfectly fine? Let's see, there's the little hole. And I also want to make sure that my hearts are always facing up. I'm going to put this on my chain like this so that my little hearts are always upward. Now if you don't have little hearts, you don't have to worry about that. And then I'm going to finish it off with a little tiny silver bead. You don't have to do that, of course. Okay, so I've completed a pattern here of beads that I want, and I have enough slack at the top. You want to make sure you have that because you're going to create the same little eye hole right here on this end. And let me show you how I do that. Okay, once we have this pattern filled as we need it, we're going to fold the top slack of what we have here. You want to make sure we have that. Bend it down, and that'll lock all these beads so they don't no longer move out on you. We use our little pliers like this to slide into this little hole and measure so that we know how far in to push it over here to create the other little needle hole up at the other end. So now we're going to bring it up here, place it about the same area that it went into the other one. Bring in that slack, roll it over to create another little hole on this end. And then we're going to cut off the slack, or the piece that we no longer need the end here. And then we can use these pliers again to flatten it to make sure that that little end is closed, and that also that our little pin here, a little decoration that we just created, is nice and straight, because it can bend on you and get crooked. So there we go. I'll be back with the rest of them. Alright, so I have completed all 4 of my little bead decorations here, my little attachments. So I've gone ahead and I placed it against the one that I made before, and they're pretty much the same size. They're about 1.5 inches long. Now remember, we started off with these pins being at 2 inches, but because you know we did another little hole on one of the other ends, and because we did snip off some of it, you know, it took off from the length. So I ended up with 1.5 inch lengths here. So that helps you in guiding it. How long you should make yours. There it is, 1.5 inches, which is about the same as this one. So again, this chain here ended up being altogether about, I think, 32 inches. I'll measure it again once more, but it's about 32 inches all together in length. It does not include the length of the clips here, okay? It just the chain itself, the whole length all the way to the other end right here. So that's what I'm going to look for and try to achieve. So because I started off with 18 inches here, which is the same that I started off over here on this other chain, and now I've created 4 little bead attachments, the same as this. In between them I have a 1 inch chain. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces at 1 inch, and then to finish it off I'm going to do 2 inch pieces. So I need to cut 2 inch pieces of 2 inch chain. Okay, so 2 1 inch and 2 2 inch. Alright, so I've laid down my chain in the pattern that I want it to be. Here's my longer piece. It's an 18 inch and I've curved it right here. And then I'm going to put a bead section, and then the smaller link chain section, another bead, and then the longer chain link section, and then I will finish them off with the clips, which will actually go like that. And I'm going to be using these jump rings between every section. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 5 for each side. So altogether I have 10 of these jump rings. Now these little jump rings have a little opening to them. Let me show you. Okay, so I've got my little jump ring, and I already know that my little opening is up here. Now you can't see it on camera, but I can see it. So just find it. I'm going to grab with one side with one of my pliers and the other side with my other pliers, and I want to twist this in opposite directions, so like that. Okay, so I'm not opening my jump ring like that. Okay, I don't want to twist it open like that, because what it does is it takes away the round shape of it, and then it's not going to look very nice. So you want to have it like that and pull one end to the front and one to the back, so that you have it open like that rather than opening it up like that. I hope you understood that. Okay, so now that I have it open, I'm going to take my chain, one end of it, loop the link through it, and now I want to put this little decorative piece in there. Now remember, I want my little heart to go one way, so you may not have this little type of design, this type of bead where you want the, you know, your one bead to be facing a certain way. So you don't have to worry about it if you just place your, you know, your beads however you want on there. But I'm just going to make sure that I always have this one facing up, and I'm starting with the bottom, so I'm working my way up. So this is facing up, so I'm going to grab this part and then link it onto my little jump ring. Now I'm going to tighten my jump ring just like I opened it. So instead of squeezing it closed, I am going to twist it back so that it is closed, and the two little ends are now meeting again. You want to make sure they are. You can give it a little bit of a push if it opened up a little wider, just a tiny bit, and then just squeeze to make sure that they are flat up against each other. And that's it. That's how we add that first piece. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that for the other end, but I'm going to go ahead and finish this end off by adding another jump ring right here, the same way I just did that, and then add this little chain. Okay, so let's pop that open and add that. Okay, so I finished attaching all the parts to one side of my 18-inch chain. So now I want to go to the other end and do the same thing. And attach all these little parts with little jump rings in between. Alright everyone, I have finished my second chained mask holder, as you can see here, and I've gone ahead and I put it on my mask. Now I did try to match the little beads to my mask. A lot of my masks have baby blue on them, so that's why I chose these beads. Of course, I could create one of these chains for every one of my masks if I wanted to do that. Of course, if you use the kind that you just throw away, that you use once and you throw away, then make your beads in whatever color you want, whatever design you want. You don't even have to worry about the color either, because you know you're going to choose something that you like all the time. Maybe you want to choose gold instead of silver. Alright, so I hope that you enjoyed this. I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up and leave a kind comment down below. Let me know what you think of these masks. Is this something that you think that you'll be creating? Again, you can recycle some old necklace if you happen to have something at home, and just get the little parts and rebuild it and create this. You'll probably just have to find these little clips. Alright everyone, please make sure you subscribe. So hit that red button at the bottom, and then hit the little notification bell so that you get notified of my videos. And I try to put up 2 videos a week, and once in a while I do a little extra vlog. It is super cold here, and it's making me very lazy, and I'm sure it's really cold where you are, so I'm hoping that you're keeping yourselves nice and warm, and you know, keep yourself safe. Don't be out there on the road. It's too icy, and if you're somewhere where you're not worried about that, then awesome for you. Send some of that heat up our way. Yes, even here in deep South Texas, it got a little frosty. All right, everyone, make sure you follow my Facebook page at Trisha's Creations. And as always, enjoy.